Sister Roma. Well, thank you.
Take it off!
I'm from the San Francisco house, and I have been a sister for 28 years. Introduce yourself.
Hi,
Gary.
I'm Sister Phyllis with the light of day, the none too bright, and I haven't been doing anything for 28 years.
Or anyone.
Oh, that's true. Well, that may not be true. And I am based out of San Francisco as well.
Hello, my name is Sister Gertha Rotunda from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
She really is.
My name is Sister Unity Divine Bodhisattva. That means in Sanskrit that I have a harmonious act.
All right, so we're going to get started. Well, since we're starting with makeup, let's talk a little bit about the makeup. We're going to turn to our local Sephora Pro makeup artiste, Sister Phyllis,
thanks
to talk
for that.
about makeup.
Thanks for plugging. I love a good plug. So I want to talk a little bit. One of the most distinctive features of a sister is obviously what? The white face. And we get the question so many times. She's like, is it your knockers that are the most distinctive, Unity? Is that what you're saying? Okay. I love that. Is why do sisters wear white face? And historically, how did that get started? And some houses do it and some houses don't. And so there's actually a great urban legend about how white face started in the sisters. And it starts with our founding member, Sister Vicious Power Hungry Bitch. Woo! Now, rumor has it that Vish had a side business with gentlemen callers, and so she used whiteface to keep her regular clientele from knowing that she did drag because it's like this mask, right? So we don't know how true that part of the story is.
I say it's true. I tell that story all the time.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's true or not, but I love it.
true.
They were a bunch of hookers, and they wanted to conceal their identity, so they wore whiteface.
Does truth really matter?
Yeah, does it really? And so now whiteface just sort of becomes as a way of self-expression, but also when we think about putting on a mask, you're able to really put on this idea of a character, this idea of a persona or a personality. So one of the cool things about being a sister is you go, well, I don't know if it's a cool thing, is you go through several periods of progression in your process. And when you become a novice sister is the moment you're, in our house, allowed to wear whiteface. However, in other houses, like in our Seattle house, their postulants, the next level down of member, actually begin experimenting with whiteface in that time frame. So some other great tips, whiteface is great for a lot of things. So if you're going to a porn party, you wear nude lips. Roma, you can attest to this?
Absolutely.
Hold on.
Oh.
I have notes here.
Oh my gosh, she's making me look bad. I
hold on,
obviously had nothing prepared. I was just talking.
My notes are all A flat, but I tell everyone I'm a French supermodel, so.
Yeah. Close grinder, Tinder, growler. Oh, there we go. All right. One of our mission statements is to spread universal joy, which is probably one of my favorite. Because the sisters have a connection or a form of holy clowns, spiritual fools, okay? And this is something that goes... There you go. Oh, yeah, see? It's creepy cool. But sacred clowns have gone back in history and through Native American culture, and their main point is to point out the obvious through humor and make a point in doing so, right? So, for instance, it was, there'd be members of different tribes. Let's say they went through a hard winter and there was little food. Well, the tribe member, spiritual clown there, obviously would act like he was full and so on and so forth. So by showing the opposite side, it opens up the doors of that. And so the sisters have adopted that as well in what we do. It's a form of clowning, of spiritual clowning.
I'm one of the LA sisters. You can tell because we've got the Hollywood Bowl Scoopy thing on our head. San Francisco has the buns on their heads. And every city picks a different, it's called a coronet, although in one of our meetings we couldn't remember. And Sister Buffy was like, the hoobie-dooby. So immediately I was like, I move that we call it officially a hoobie-dooby. Someone yelled, second! The chair said, all in favor say, aye, aye! And so we call it a hoobie-dooby. Because if you don't make fun of yourself, what really is the point? I'm just saying. God So, from my mouth to God's ears, that Congress should behave the same way. I'm just saying. So what I have to say ties in a little bit with what Goethe was talking about the sacred fool, which is one of the archetypal historical roles of men who cross the gender line. At the outset, I'd like to apologize to the women in the room. My studies have not included women crossing the gender line, which is an enormous and valuable field of inquiry. In 2000, last year when I was 18, Paramount contracted me to write the history of drag when they were putting out Priscilla Queen of the Desert's DVD. And if you get one of the old copies, you can see a picture of me in pre-sister drag. It's frightening. And so I wrote 14 pages on the history of drag and did in-depth research on this and found out some things that I wish all queens and friends of queens knew. The big thing that was burned out of society, out of Western society, which has had the loudest voice for about 1,000, 2,000 years, right, is that gay men who cross the gender line used to be the spiritual functionaries of society. The shamans, the priests, the magicians, the hypnotists, and the storytellers. Not that others didn't do this and couldn't do this. Certainly in Europe and in Africa and in the Americas, there's been a long tradition of witches, of wise women, also doing healing work and storytelling. I will tell the story of the gay men. The French, when they came to the New World, called them berdache, which is sort of a 16th century way of saying faggot. But it's now one of the words that academia uses to describe this archetype of the cross-gendering male who performs a spiritual function. When the conquistadors came to Central America, they found one in every village and killed them for heresy. But the important thing, we can forgive. They've got fabulous shoes. The important point is there was one in every village. We were there, and in places in the world like Siberia and in the South Pacific, it still exists. We still perform this function. If you study theater, like Theater 101, they tell you that religion and theater were the same thing back in prehistory. So dressing up like this and doing interesting, strange, funny things is part of ritual because it's part of theater. They're the same thing. You're using physicality in odd, unexpected ways to change people's consciousness and feelings. And that's what we do. To bring this to the sisters, manifesting is job one. It all started in 1979, the day before Easter, when 3 guys had these old nuns' habits of dead nuns from Iowa City, a convent in Iowa City, and they told them they were going to perform a production of The Sound of Music.
She was a hooker and a thief.
It's like Les Miserables. Je suis fromage. From Les Miserables, the original French version. And they took these habits and they moved to San Francisco, and one day they decided to hit the streets of San Francisco with Karl Malden. And they found that they got such a reaction to this bearded, hairy-chested men in these nuns' habits, they decided to make a go of it. And they got together a bigger group, and one who had been in a seminary with lots of seamen came up with the name of Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. That was sister missionary position.
There may or may not have been psychedelics and other smokables involved.
We're reprehensible! There is room in the world for me to do this, so there is room in the world for you and you and you to be who you are as you are. No shame, no guilt, love and joy.
We did see a question, though. I did see a hand go up, sister,
yes,
right
let's
over
take
here.
questions.
So I think we had one person.
I was wondering, what place is there within the sisters for people like me who are trans-masculine? Because I'm a trans man, so...
That's the beautiful thing. I mean, everyone is welcome.
Great question.
To join the sisterhood or to start their own advent or convent anywhere. But like I said, it really is a dedication to it. I mean, this is one of the reasons I'm only a novice. I have not earned my black veil yet. I'm trying. But what happens is that you have to go through a process, and you have to report to the Nuns Council, and they keep track on you and your house to make sure that you're out in the community, that you're serving your community, or that you're bettering the world and following the mission statement and everything. But the thing is that anybody is welcome, as long as you have the desire, the will, and a smile to join the sisterhood.
And I would say too, the cool thing too is the manifestation doesn't have to be feminine. So it doesn't need to be drag. It can be I'm a priest or a brother or a guard or and a lot of times, like when we were talking about makeup earlier, nothing says that this is. I mean, we're just glamorous. That's what we choose. So glamorous. But there's, like if you see Beyoncé, her manifestation and her makeup is more of an expression of a feeling or a feeling she's trying to inspire. Sometimes, yes, she's inflamed, is what she is.
Burning
I
feeling.
have ointment in my purse for her. To answer your question about like the gender representation, we would want you to manifest how you feel the most comfortable, the most beautiful, and the most engaging.
I was going to ask, do sisters view themselves differently from drag queens or not?
Yes and no.
I was like, yeah, who wants to take that one?
Yes and no. I started out as a drag queen, but even as a drag queen, I was going towards the fantastical. My wig was bright red, like not a natural color. And the makeup, I started with liquid eyeliner in college, just doing these swirls, and it just grew into continually doing that. And I never found myself as good as these two are geniuses at doing like supermodel, fabulous, glorious, with the real like shading of the bone structure and the whole. I was like, I'm gonna be Kandinsky, where, they're Rubens. So in some of them are a little more drag queens. In fact, we've lost some to drag. Mama Tits, the drag queen in Seattle, started out as a sister and then transitioned over. Certainly, I mean, we're here. We consider ourselves part of the drag world. Absolutely. You have a beard, a hairy chest, and you wear construction boots, but you put on a dress. I'll call you a drag queen. You can be bald, whatever. Put a monkey on.
I will call
your
you
head.
ma'am.
Right. So what is drag? I hope there's a panel. What is drag? And we count ourselves in that. That said, there are differences like drag queens we are really focused towards service. Not that drag queens aren't, but culturally, especially now with television and RuPaul, thank you for the convention hall, there's a focus on performative, and we use performance towards a particular mission, and drag queens may or may not have that particular mission.
There are sisters who do not consider what we do drag. They prefer to say that we are in face and this is a manifestation. Mm-hmm. People would always ask me, are you a drag queen? I'd be like, hell yes, I'm a drag queen. I fucking love drag queens. Yes. I mean, that's why I'm so isn't this great to be here right now? I know. Well, I'm such a super fan of drag queens. I have always been in awe of the amazing, beautiful queens that I've known and the trans women that I've known over the years who have inspired me in so many ways that I wear the name drag queen with such pride. I think it's fabulous.
Well, and I would say too, in our community, we have really, really strong relationships with our drag community. So you're our sisters. Okay, that was a lame one. I admit that. I admit that one. But and so even though we don't necessarily do exactly the same thing, our circles, our Venn diagram overlaps a lot, and we spend a lot of time together. And I'd say that there is a tremendous level of respect. I respect drag queens and drag performers, drag kings so much. I'd say their respect for us is slightly less, because most people. All right. So anyway, with that being said,
is there anyone here who has not crossed the gender line with clothing, hair? Like, is anyone who's never swapped genders? Even if you're a woman and you identify mostly as masculine, have you ever worn a dress? You haven't, sir? You haven't, ma'am? You haven't?
What are you doing later?
May I exhort you to give it a try? For those of us who have, isn't there something that happens when you put on the other side's clothing? Like you find yourself in this weird no man's land that's filled with wispy, creative, who knows what. It's just you're like your mind is in this other place, and it's because your mind is in this other place that I think that the ones who started to do it back, with animal skins and sticks, discovered that they could go between the secular and the transcendent, because you do step out of everything that is quote unquote normal, and you're like, oh okay, I'm free. I can do whatever I want.
Drag queens are bigger than ever. Yes, we're not going anywhere. This is amazing. Thank you all so much for coming. Let's look at our Let's look at our drag makeovers, shall we? Our sister makeovers.
What's your sister name gonna be?
I know. I hope that you have thought of a name for yourself, sisters. Oh my gosh, you look gorgeous. She does look like Connie.
I'd like to introduce you to Sister Jane Morningwood. And this
Isn't she a vision?
is my little sister, Sister Puta Condamon. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.